have one more person that's en route that'll give us a quorum. So we'll bypass all of the legal stuff and come back to it when we have a quorum. Stuff that you have to have a vote on. So right now we just I want to thank you for being to our Affordable Housing Committee meeting, and we'll do old and new business and our neighborhood assistance program budget update.
All right. Good morning and welcome to February. I feel like we just saw each other sitting in these same spots, but January came and February is here. So good morning to you all. I'll skip to our memo. The adopted budget for the fiscal year 23 Neighborhood Assistance Program was $190,000. As of January 26, 2023, a total of 39 homes have been serviced for home repairs such as roofing, wet and damaged floors, and septic pump out, totaling $173,996. I know I'm saying that wrong. For the home repair program, $161,533 has been spent. On January 10th, 2023, $20,000 was placed into the affordable housing account for contingency. One invoice is waiting to be processed for $355. Once paid, the available budget for home repair will be $8,112. For property cleanup and septic pump out, the line item has been exceeded by $1,263. And I do want to pause there. The only reason why we allowed the property cleanup and septic pump out to exceed its original budget is because it's considered a safety hazard, DHEC, sanitary. So that is consisting of our septic pump outs for those that have full septic systems, and we need to keep going just to keep it sanitary. So that is one of our most popular calls. This shortfall will be covered by funds from the abatement and demolition line item. Once council approves additional funding at the February and March town council meetings, funds for both of those line items will be restored back to its original amount. Any questions there? I know I said a mouthful on that line.
When we approve the next budget?
When we approve our budget amendment. The
Right,
extra funds.
just because we went over it, like the budget that we just approved for the next fiscal year, is there anything we need to adjust there?
We took it up 5,000. Yeah, for fiscal year 2024, we took it up, that line item up $5,000 more.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So, right now we are in the red, but like I said, once those budget amendment funds are approved, everything will go back, slide back into its right slot. Any questions? All right. To date, 7 applications have been approved for repairs and are waiting on estimates. 5 applications have been turned in and have not yet been income verified. So we are at a standstill with 12 residents waiting on home repairs. So the program is paused, but I have not paused. So 12 applications are sitting on my desk, just waiting to get our contractors out there, waiting to get those estimates in so we can keep going once town council approves what needs to be approved. The 5 applications that have been turned in, but I have not turned to LCOG, I just kind of don't want everything to kind of just be rushing at one time. So we're going to move in slow, but precisely once those funds are released. So I'll slide down to our Excel sheet so you can see where all those dollars, and I'll give you time to look at that. So in a nutshell, right now we stand with $34,499 remaining out of our $190,000 budget. So we're not zero, but it's just, don't want to play it too close and start these applications and then we just flat out don't have any. So that's where we stand right now. Questions, comments, or concerns?
So the available budget is not, has not been committed.
Say it one more time, I'm sorry.
The available budget, 34,499, that's not committed yet.
No, ma'am. Okay. No.
So the 12 that are the applicants, that may eat up that 35,000.
It may, but I'm not going to do anything with that 34 because I don't want it to zero out at all.
Okay.
So just in case we need to do something emergency-wise, that 34 is there. But right now, I'm not going to do anything with the 12 in the queue with that 34. Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Politis has joined us, and she's plays an important role at her bank. So we understand when she's a little tardy, but we appreciate her commitment to helping us out whenever she can. So, with that said, we'll now have a roll call.
All right, let me take us back. Well, roll call, Chairman Fred Hamilton,
Yeah.
Denolis Polite,
Here.
Meg James,
Here.
Dan Wood, Grace Staples,
Here.
and William Chambers.
Okay, the agenda, we'd like for you to look at the agenda as presented and I need a motion to adopt it as presented.
Motion to adopt as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Same with the minutes from January the 5th, 2023. You need a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Okay. We have quite a bit of public and some familiar faces, so we appreciate you being here, and now is the time to come up and give us some of your thoughts and concerns, or even some of your ideas. Anyone can step up to the mic.
If you can state your name for the record for me so we can get you recorded.
Good morning, everyone. Shannon Green. I am a Town of Bluffton employee. I came to your meeting last month as well to speak my concerns on affordable housing. And let's see, I would just say that a month in, not much has changed. There's very few available apartments for someone such as myself who makes a decent wage. At present, the Bluestone is a community that I mentioned last month. In the space from when I discovered them, spoke to you about them, and then put in my application, their lowest price unit went up $100 a month. And so now at my present rate of pay, I no longer qualify. So that's been a frustration. And they were one of, or if not the lowest I could find in the Bluffton boundaries, within the boundaries of Bluffton. So I just wondered maybe if I could offer a suggestion. Perhaps you could, as a committee, come up with at least a list of apartment communities or property managers that subscribe to offering affordable housing, or I don't know. I don't know the terminology. I don't know what communication levels you have with those particular entities. So, but I just feel it's an important topic. It exists, and in fact, apparently someone watched the meeting from last month, and she emailed me this morning and said she watched me talking to you about the lack of affordable housing, even while being a employee of the town of Bluffton. And she too is in the same situation. Her lease is up in a few months, and she's already paying $2,000 a month for a one-bedroom, and she doesn't know where she's going to go. So it's interesting. I thought I was alone, but apparently it's in a situation that other people are experiencing. So I'm proud to be an employee of the town of Bluffton, and I'd love to be a resident of the town of Bluffton. And so some way, somehow, I'd like to have that be possible. I think that's all I have to say, unless you have questions.
Stay there for a minute. Anyone have any questions for her? Staff?
Questions?
I do have a question, and I'm a realtor, so have you tried or looked at villas or anything that people are offering, private owners, besides Bluestone and some of just the normal apartments? Have you investigated that at all?
I don't know what, I've tried Craigslist and even contacted vacation rentals and asked if they'd be willing to consider a more permanent resident. I don't know where to find those. There's not, apartments.com for Bluffton has a very minimal listing. There was one private listing, and then the other three were the Bluestone and two others. So that's finding those, finding how to contact someone that has a property such as that is, it's not obvious.
Well, I've had to do that for clients moving in or, just couldn't find a house in their price range. And I've looked on Nextdoor. Have you heard of that one?
I've heard of Nextdoor.
Yeah, Nextdoor and some others. But it is like a needle in a haystack, even finding the individuals that have places for rent. But they seem to be a lot more reasonable.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you all.
Ms. Green, sharing your experience is important, especially in this room, with this committee, and that's why we put our hearts and effort in trying to be a game changer. There are things that's in the pipeline. It's probably not what you want to hear, but there are stuff that we are doing that's going to make it's going to make others in our region also follow. And we have Soloco that's doing significant work now with the Housing Trust Fund. So even if it's not Bluffton, there may be areas surrounding us in our region that's going to address the same issue. I think you heard when you were hearing more about it today. Our town manager's here to tell us about a project that we're working with. So I don't have the magic wand today, or we don't have the magic wand today, but we understand, and our concerns is heartfelt with you. Okay.
I appreciate that. I'm not looking for a magic wand. I want to voice my concerns and share it so that maybe something meaningful will come out of it. So thank you for that information.
And just to piggyback on what Mr. Hamilton said, saying it here is important because our partners are here. Like, we are one committee that hopefully try to make a change, but we've got to have the partners, the realtors, the builders, the homeowners, everybody got to buy into affordable housing. And with the market the way it is, the bankers, even with the market the way it is, when you're talking dollars, and this is not to you, but when you're talking to our partners, dollars are a lot. I mean, it's valuable now than it was before when housing rent and ownership was a little bit cheaper. So it's real important because if I work at a bank, and if I didn't live here 20-some years, I'm not exactly sure where I would be myself.
Right.
So to have my footing here for such a long time is a blessing to me. So with people coming in, it's difficult. But looking outside of Bluffton, it's growing. So to get in on them places too, before it gets to the point where we're at now, is important.
Right.
Also.
Understood. Yes.
So
All right. Well,
thank you for your
y'all
time
your
too, for sharing.
Please keep coming.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen, are they representing you today?
Yes, they're all here to talk about and answer questions that y'all may have.
Okay, all right, very good. Okay, then, if there's any other public comment before we go to the next agenda item. Stephen, thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, thank y'all for allowing us to be here. As you know, we are it's one of council's priorities to do affordable housing. We actually have several pieces of land that the town has acquired and looking to do so. We went out 3+ years ago to find a partner with us to do public-private partnership for affordable housing. We worked through that and finally got an agreement in place. Council approved. I think everything was finalized last fall. So our first piece of property that we're looking at is 1095 May River Road that the town owns. It's a little short of 2 acres, about 1.8 acres. And we've, just to give you a little bit of background, in trying to put together a public-private partnership to address affordable housing, there is a balance of trying to maintain whether it's going to be, at what portion is it going to be private and what portion is going to be public, and what the funding is going to look like, what the long-term maintenance is going to look like, and trying to address some of those questions and concerns. And part of the negotiations with the agreement and trying to finalize what things are going to look like moving forward, one of the big questions that came up was long-term maintenance of public spaces, the ponds, the roads, and stuff like that, because when we have typically had subdivisions that have been done in Bluffton, they have HOAs or POAs who are put in place to maintain those kind of facilities, roads, ponds, etc. When we start talking about making things affordable, what we run into is when you start looking at having a POA or HOA for 14 residential units, is what is that going to look like? Is that going to create a fee? Is it going to create a burden that then takes something that could be affordable and makes it unaffordable? So are we talking about adding a couple $100s per month to an HOA fee so that they can maintain their roads, maintain their stormwater pond, and et cetera moving forward, that then takes a unit that was 80% affordable and then makes it non-affordable? Because that total cost of home ownership is what we're really looking at. Because we want to make sure that whenever somebody gets in there, that we're not putting them into a burden that is going to put them in a situation where it was affordable and then it becomes unaffordable. So we want to make sure that we're looking at all these things long term. So where we get into that is having that conversation now that we're looking at the initial design, and you have a couple sheets in front of you here showing the initial design of what has been put together. And just so you know, we do have our partners here. We have Whitworth Jones Kiefer is over here. He's doing the land design. We have Pierce Scott and Amanda with Pierce Scott and Associates, architects. And then Matt, who is representing the builder with State of Mind. So we have, these are all the partners, so they're here and they can answer questions that may be beyond me, or to make sure that y'all also understand where we're at and what the steps looking forward are, moving forward. So the initial site plan you can see with this one, done by Whitworth Jones Kiefer, shows kind of the layout with 14 townhome units. The goal for all of these is for them to be owner occupied and for them to be at least 4 at 60% AMI, at least 4 at 80% AMI, and at least 4 at 100% AMI. So the other 2 units may be 100%, maybe 80%, but we would at least have 4 at each of those levels. So that's part of the agreement that we have in place. We've reached a point where we really want to get guidance from y'all, because we're going to have to take this to all of council. But we wanted to make sure that the Affordable Housing Committee had a chance to review, discuss, and give us some guidance, so that when Councilman Hamilton and Councilman Wood, when we're sitting in front of council about having some of these discussions, they can say that this is something that's either supported, or we had concerns, or whatever decision needs to be made, that we have the input from the Affordable Housing Committee moving forward. So you can see the kind of the layout we have here, and that's been put into place. Brings us back to the conversation that I started with, which is now we have to have parking, we have to have stormwater, we have to have entry roads, and we reach a point where we are trying to balance that burden and trying to figure out long-term what the public and private part of this development is going to look like. So The second sheet kind of shows a little bit of a just simplified version to show what units would actually be sold off versus what is remaining as kind of open land that's going to require maintenance long-term. This includes a potential pocket park, it includes the parking, the roadways, and the stormwater. So typically the town of Bluffton does not take ownership of any roads whenever a development is done. We do have some roads that we do own. We've taken some in Old Town. We have, what's the parkway? Hampton Parkway. We've done some other stuff like that. But with this being an affordable housing development and being a public-private partnership, the question comes up is, do we take the council as a recommendation that the town take over the roads, the sidewalks, the stormwater, and maintain it in perpetuity to ensure that these units stay affordable? Part of the conversation we had as well goes with the covenants that are going to go forward. The initial covenant showed like an estimated 30-year affordability. Is having some conversations that the town is going to do the maintenance long term. Do we extend those covenants and make them 40 years so that we make sure if the town's going to invest funds into maintain roads and stormwater, that we're going to keep these units affordable for a longer period of time? So there's some discussion that can be had there. But really, the base question that comes down to right now is this something that the town, as part of our public-private partnership, wants to move forward with, is recommending that we maintain the open space and take that as town property long-term to maintain roads, public parking, the stormwater, and so forth, moving forward to reduce the requirement to have an HOA, which will then keep these units more affordable in the long term. And also, just talking about 14 units individually, having to do that, what that burden may be for individuals within this project. So that's kind of a primer of where we're at and why we're here wanting to have that conversation so we can get some input from the Affordable Housing Committee and get some guidance moving forward. I'll be glad to answer any questions that I can that you have. Like I said, we've got everybody representing the builders, the land planners. So we want to have this conversation because we're ready to move forward from the point of this to actually getting the architectural design and the vertical design done so that we can then move from what we call phase one, which is all the design, and move into phase two, which is contracting with Matt and his team to do all the horizontal work, to build the roads, to put the infrastructure in so that we can then go vertical. So this is really our biggest question for moving forward from phase one into phase two. Thank you.
So the question is, you said our biggest question is what?
Our biggest question is making the recommendation that the town take and maintain the public spaces and facilities to help ensure that this is affordable long-term. Mm-hmm. And if we make that recommendation, is there any considerations that we want to take, as in extending the affordability covenants for, say, an additional 10 years or whatever, to make sure that we're protecting the investment that the town is making?
I have just a basic question.
Yes, ma'am.
Where is this? What's it next to?
So it's 1095 May River. I don't know where this is.
Across from Buck Point Island, you know that entrance at Buck Point Island on May River Road on the left?
In between Cahill's and the Parkers on May River Road.
That's
So after the nature store, it's like a couple, yeah.
Okay, so is it on the river side or is it on the, okay,
And the inland side.
all right.
He's pulling it up so you can see exactly where it is. Sorry, he's pulling it up so you can see exactly where it is.
So one of my questions would be, because you kept on referencing back to keeping it affordable, and you referenced POA. So if a POA is going to make it unaffordable, then we don't have a discussion. At least for me, because we're working towards affordability. So that's kind of a no-brainer for me. And I know you got to ask the question because you've got to go back and figure out how to make that work for everybody else who's going to pay the bill. Then I think I lost my train of thought. Oh, the other thing then was, do we take it 30 years that we have it now in the covenant, or move it extend it a little bit further to ensure the affordability? My question always is if we say, yeah, we're gonna take it 40 years and we are now dead and gone, can somebody come back and say, now we're gonna take this back down to 30?
No, it actually gets filed with the deed for the property, and it follows that deed for the life of the covenant.
Okay, so once it moves to 30, it can go back. And I don't understand all of that, so I don't want to make, because.
So if we do 30, once that time period extends, that requirement disappears.
Right.
So then they can sell it to whoever, whatever, and it becomes market rate at that point.
Okay, but if we extend it, I just want to make sure that they can't backtrack.
No.
They can't go back.
Now, once the covenant is filed, that's part of the closing transfer. Once that covenant is filed and it goes with that deed, it stays with that until the covenant expires.
Okay, and then for me, I'm thinking my children and my children's children. So I would want to personally extend it. If it sets out to be affordable, I tend to go for affordability and profitability. And I know that got to work together, but then we'll have more people like this beautiful young lady in the back that's coming here, or my children that's coming here, or that's here, it can't live here. That's what I see now, is my children can't live here because of profitability. And I'm working towards affordability. So that's my 2 cents.
Who would be handling right now, like qualifying, I guess?
That would be through the builder whenever we get to that point.
Okay.
That's part of the agreement, is they handle all the qualifications. I think we use LCOG to do all the qualifications, same as we use for the neighborhood assistance, but they would do all the qualifying and work through that through the transfer and sale of the property.
I just wanted to offer this. I lived in Reston, Virginia, right by Dulles Airport. And when I moved there in 1994, it was a nice little town, live, work, and play and all that. And so I moved there twice, but I sold my house in 2019. Well, when I moved there was a beautiful little red brick community of affordable housing. And the people, we saw the children grow up. They grew up in that community, and I always wondered, well, what's the income level? So I really never knew that. But you saw the children grow up, the people get old, etc. And then I thought that is so great, because then around it, the houses that were $200,000 went to $1.5 million, and then we kept building, and pretty soon they called it the internet capital of the world. So that just meant we got more money and more people with money moving in. So I still am on the distribution, what's going on in the town. And here it is, 30 years later, 30 that I knew about, they're deciding that they're going to take away the affordable housing, that community, because it's sitting there, and all around it are $1 million townhomes. So the people are really upset. And of course I'm upset, because it's like we saw the children and the grandchildren coming, and now I guess the covenant ran out. So here we are. I was probably there 5 years before I got there. So it's 30, 35 years later, and all of a sudden these people are upended. And I would not want to see the same thing, because we have to look for the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, people who will have affordable housing. And I don't know, a lot of the people that were living in the community, their children grew up, a lot of their children went to college, and, so they had the good life, but then there are still people there who were there at the very beginning. So that concerns me. 30 years sounds like a long time, but
It's quick.
it's quick. it's quick when you talk about that. I would not want to see that happen 30 years from now when, like Ms. Polite said, we're going to be dead and gone. But we have to think about what's going to happen to the future of our community and our people who may need affordable housing.
And I agree, and we're seeing that with some of the apartments that are coming up now. They were required to have their affordability while they had their federal loans or their back loans, and now that they come up, they start, like you said, balance profitability versus affordability. And so, no, that's great input. The other thing is just to make sure as we go to council and start having additional conversations about looking at the open space and the maintenance and that long term, is just in any concerns or questions or anything in the town being a partner and doing that compared to any place else that we normally do inside the town, just to make sure that we're balancing that. Because again, we're trying to balance whether it is a public development versus a private development, and public maintenance versus, but we do have homes that are in Old Town where we maintain the roads and the public parking and all of that around them. So there are some places that we do it, and if this is something that is a priority for council, is it something that we continue to do in other places to make sure that we have this, we can make these meet the affordability requirements.
If you were to take it over, would council have to approve increasing the budget line item for it?
Well, they would have to agree to take the roads, to take the ownership and the maintenance, and we would have to have that budgeted for us to maintain that long term. And that's where.
Should we suggest that you have that ready for them?
I'm sorry?
Should we suggest that you have that ready for them? If that's the plan moving forward, should you have an idea of what it's going to look like for the town to?
We would.
Take that on?
And we've actually, I don't know if, Matt, if you've had any chance to look, we kind of had that conversation trying to figure out what that maintenance would look like if we did it as a POA, just to figure out, so we can compare. But have you had a chance to look?
I talked to a company that specializes in POA management. That's all they do. And the individual that I was talking with has more 3- and 4-letter acronyms. It's alphabet soup following her name. She is an expert in this field. So she was looking at it over a 30-year lifespan and what would be needed in terms of reserve requirements. Because in her experience in managing POAs all over the country, she's seen instances where a need arrives to maintain an aspect of the community that requires a special assessment. And because of the way homeowner association law is, they can actually place a lien on the property and force foreclosure if you can't pay your special assessment. So there's some pretty significant teeth in this conversation that we're having. So what she was looking at is she was looking at a 30-year lifespan of road maintenance and infrastructure maintenance and things like that. And the number you threw out, $200 a month, is not that far off, depending if we are having the homeowners pay it on a month-to-month basis to build this reserve for the future expense, or if there is a fund that is placed in the as a capital reserve in the beginning to fund that future needs. She was estimating, based upon her data today, that the roads would cost $85,000 to repave in 20 some odd years. Then that would include striping and a variety of other things. As far as community maintenance, a lot of these discussions that I was having with her, it's kind of the chicken and egg scenario, because I'm asking her to give me pricing on something that we don't know what it is. But some of the pricing that she's talking will help us decide what is the most affordable long term. Maybe not the least expensive thing day one, but it could be the least expensive thing over year 30. I think she was proposing a maintenance budget for the community to maintain everything in and around the facilities of around $7,000 a year for landscape maintenance, et cetera, road, blowing the roads, that type of thing. So when we add it all together, it does actually come up to a fairly significant portion of an individual owner's budget if that owner is one of the 14 required to maintain this entire parcel. We're fortunate to have the parcel to work on. The reality, and I think Dan can speak to this as well, it's not the ideal shaped piece of land for the most efficient use. We've got a road that comes in that we can only put property on one side. Ideally, when you're building a road, you have houses on both sides. That reduces the cost of your road by half. So by our road layout, we looked at it and how we can actually keep our infrastructure cost to a minimum while still maximizing the number of dwellings that we have on it. The property allows for 12 units with 2 bonus density units. So our goal from the beginning was to put 14 on because that reduces the cost per unit as far as the infrastructure. But still only at 14 with the lineal footage of road, the lineal footage of sidewalk, it does become a significant burden per individual homeowner if they have to maintain that. So that's the back end conversations that I had regarding, and she was lockstep with what our thoughts were as far as what the long-term costs would be.
Would that be what you just said, the whole burden of the homeowner? Or can we make it a partnership where the homeowner took a portion of that monthly budget? Because I always think that you have to have skin in the game.
Yes.
No, y'all ain't gonna do that? Why?
Skin in the game is the town being a part, taxpayers' money.
The concern, and we've had that same conversation, is do we do the roads and then we let the residents do the public, maintain the landscaping or the pond or all that? What comes from that, and that's kind of where the conversation of do we kind of move this direction or do we go this direction, is because when we try to balance in the middle, if we end up in a situation where you have 2 homeowners who lose their job and all of a sudden they can't afford their POA and the maintenance doesn't get done because they don't have enough coming in to pay the contract when it goes up, and who's going to end up enforcing that requirement? The town will be the one that has to step in and enforce them to do that. And if it's like he talked about, all of a sudden it's an increase or it becomes a lien. And so that's where we're kind of, again, it's that balancing of where the public and private are balancing each other out. And with it trying to find somewhere in the middle, it gets gray very quick and gets complicated. So that's where the option that I think long term that it kind of puts the town on maintenance, but it makes the units, I think, long term the most affordable and the best for the people who are going to be there, is looking at the town being in the ones who own and maintain the ponds, the roads, and so forth. But I wanted to make sure we had that conversation and that we talked everything through and that the Affordable Housing Committee understood, agreed, or had these conversations, because we want to make sure there wasn't something we forgot when we start talking with bankers and realtors and other people. There may be something that can help us bridge some of this that we weren't thinking of.
Let me, because I respect her opinion. I've been having this conversation a long time.
I know.
So I don't want you to think that, and we got to a place where I knew townhomes require maintenance. Rooftop is also a big component in that. So, and to maximize this property, to get to make it feasible for the developer as well, is to maximize the density, and that also brings down the affordability for both parts. So the only other alternative is to do less homes, and that wouldn't help this. On that end, it hurts just as much because it makes the cost go up, and it doesn't help as much people as we like to with this partial land. So it's a lot of discussion, it's a lot of give and take, and it's a lot of brainstorming, but it's important for us to understand just as much of what they understand, and that's why I wanted Stephen to come here today so you guys can dissect it and ask all the questions. I mean, don't leave nothing unturned, because we may have missed something that you experts may can help us with.
And so we don't build or sell houses for a living, so there's always something that we're going to forget. And we wanted to make sure there wasn't anything that we did.
I have a question. I don't know if anybody knows the answer. I should, probably should know the answer. Habitat with their houses, the community that's right, I think it's on Pin Oak. When I was, the year before, I was on the Habitat board. But how do they, that little community and all their communities, does the town take care of that, or is that an HOA? Or?
The Habitat programs is a lot of volunteers come in, and so they keep the cost down. Mm-hmm. They have funding that also helps them with the I guess cost of maintenance and road repairs. Habitat programs totally different from how you would build a different, and the quality of the homes is different. The style of the home is different. So it's not a apple to apple comparison.
Okay.
And I was checking with Victoria because she's on the board now. Those are not part of like a subdivision like this where they're individual home lots, just like on Go Through Your Schultz where somebody owns their home and they maintain there's no POA or anything that goes along with that individual lot. They just maintain but they, like Councilman Hamlin said, they do have support services for that.
Well, you mean the roads and
The road and all that, yeah.
common areas? They maintain that. Habitat still maintains that.
I'm not sure, I'm new to the board, 2 months in, but the Habitat is nothing like what we're trying to do here with the town of Bluffton.
Okay.
The Habitat volunteers build the homes, the homeowners build the homes themselves, so it's sweat equity hours.
Right.
And when it comes in, when they're in, they have a part of their mortgage, Habitat covers the rest, but they keep their own property clean. I'm not sure who does the road maintenance or things like that.
Okay.
But our program ourselves has helped roof repairs and different things like that, so they do their own home maintenance and upkeeping. Now, when it comes to roads and stuff, I'm not sure if that's county or who takes care of the roads.
No, actually, Habitat owns the roads.
Habitat owns that road?
Yeah, they own the roads.
That's what I was wondering, is our town taking care of those as well?
So in this scenario, if the town were to take over the open space, who would be responsible for the individual units and like?
The homeowners would be responsible for their individual units.
Okay.
They would insure maintenance and all of that, their individual units. Any other questions on where we are or the project or how we're going, since we got the entire team in the room? Be more than glad to answer.
Can I have you state your name for the record into the mic, please? Second, yes, please.
My name is Matt Lyle. I'm representing Workforce State of Mind.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, how far are we from helping the developers and to get to the next step?
So next step is we finalize the site plan that we have, and we would need to come to council probably in March at the council meeting, have those conversations and make sure, I have them in between as well, but to make sure that council is supportive of the transfer and taking over that, so that whenever we get to the point where it's time to accept those at the end of the project, that we know that we have that support moving forward. But I would say once I have those conversations and I make sure that we're comfortable with enough of council that they're supportive of that, they can move forward into going into architectural design. So hopefully soon.
I know we're in our budget cycle.
Yes, sir.
So how much, and I know that those numbers, it's kind of floated around today with not a certainty. So when will we have real numbers?
I guess once we finalize design and y'all move forward with architectural, or once we know what
Yeah, as far as, maybe just outlining our workflow sequence would be helpful. It makes sense to all of us that are living and breathing it, but just to kind of step you through the process. Yes. Taking the raw piece of land and what our constraints are, as far as what our setbacks, our road frontage, access for utilities, where we need to put our roads, all of that. That leaves us with what's left over to build a house. So there's not much space. So we are fine-tuning, they've done a fantastic job of squeezing things around so that we have buildable footprints that can be designed upon. But because it's a compact parcel, we can't take an off-the-shelf design and just drop it on because it would be a very inefficient use of our limited land. So we have our conceptual land plan, which does take into account how we would run our utilities, our stormwater, all of that. Once that is essentially approved and we know that our building footprint is what we're going to be building within, then Pearson Amanda can begin the task of the architectural development. It doesn't make sense to do that now in the event the footprints change. Once I have the footprint decided on the horizontal, I can begin costing that. But as I'm talking to site work contractors to put in road sewers, electricity, drainage, that types of things, it's all loose because there's nothing that they can truly get down to the details on. So as we move forward, we get our site plan. At that point, I can begin working on horizontal costs. At that same time, they're working on the vertical design. Once we have vertical design, I can cost that and I have all answers. Questions?
So, but this time is still not identified. How much time do we need? How much time do you need or they need before we can all say we understand where we're going?
The primary question that we discussed here as far as the ownership of the roads, that has an impact on all of this. Assuming the town is willing to take over ownership of the roads so that we know that we don't have a substantial burden that the homeowners are going to have to bear to maintain this in the future. Assuming the plan that we have is acceptable. We have a drainage engineer that is basically on standby, ready to go. I would think that from the time, what is your time frame to complete what you have here? I don't want to speak for you.
Probably within the next 30 days, having a refined conceptual plan.
So if he's 30 days, our drainage engineer was probably 60 days start to finish. So 90 days, we would have something that we would have some confidence in terms of site work plan, infrastructure plan, horizontal plan. That's the first step to give you the answer that you need as far as infrastructure costs. So, but everybody's actively moving on it. Pearson and Amanda are ready to start drawing.
But you don't think you'll be able to take it to council for approval to take over the roads until March?
Right, we'll have conversations in between, but we'll need to have kind of a definitive from council.
Will it go through as a resolution, so it only needs one reading, or what?
Technically, to take it over, that will be at the very end. Really, it's just more of a conversation with council to make sure that we're on the same page and they understand when it comes time that we're going to feel comfortable to do that. It's really more of a guidance situation at this time. So, but like I said, I think between myself, Councilman Hamilton, Councilman Wood, we can have those conversations and get us to a point that we have an answer to move forward and then get them programming. So, but that's when we got to this point, this question arose, we kind of had to, this is really our last big hurdle, I think, to jump before we can get things really steamrolling.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
This is great. amazing, and I think we're at a point now where at least we understand the parameters. So I know time is always the enemy when it comes to getting things rolling, but at least some of the times that I'm hearing that we need now, weather doesn't change that. So let's keep it rolling. All right, thank you. I can't let them get away without recognizing that Amanda and Pierce is also working on helping a family here in Bluffton get back into their home under a program, Save the Shutters. That's an amazing and compelling story that they took that on as to give back to our community, and it's also sharing. My banker has to go and take care of my money. Thank you for coming. That's an amazing part of wanting to make Bluffton special and different, and they're using a lot of their time and money and talent to help a family, and it's an affordable. It comes under an affordable component, and I hope the town finds it where we can partner with them in some of our neighborhood assistance funds to partner with them as well. So thank y'all for what you're doing, and thank you for being here today. Do we have any other discussion? Anything for you?
No, sir. I am good to go.
Good? All right. Anything from you guys?
Ready to go.
All right. You ready to go home?
It's been on my schedule to work on. I need some guidance.
Okay, we're at the end of our journey, so thank you for being here. Meeting is adjourned.